Happy Wednesday, Kipsters. We're halfway through the week. Don't let that midweek slump hit you. Keep on logging in to Lexia, ST Math, Raz Kids. Get your minutes. Make it happen. I believe in you. I'm already so proud of all the hard work you've put into this week already. Okay, for today's lesson, Kipsters, we're going to go back to our senses. We know that when we read, we look for words that appeal to our sense of sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. These words help us form a picture in our brain to better understand the story. We're pretty much experts at this chart by now, but just to review, we've got a lot of words that appeal to our different senses. For touch, something could feel bumpy. For sound, something could sound noisy. For taste, something could taste spicy. For sight, something could look bright. And for smell, something could smell strong. Then we've got a bunch of other examples, but we've been through these already, and you guys have shown me that you're really mastering this. All right. So watch me identify some sense words in Brave Irene. We've read this a billion times. We should know a lot of these like the back of our hands at this point. But let me reread this page. Go home, the wind squalled. Irene, go home. I will do no such thing, she snapped. No such thing, you wicked wind. Go home, the wind yodeled. Go home, it shrieked. Or else. For a short second, Irene wondered if she shouldn't heed the wind's warning. But no, the gown had to get to the Duchess. So I love this page and I keep coming back to it because of the sense words on it. It's so easy for me to picture exactly what's happening because of the way the author includes these words that appeal to my sense of sound. There are so many words on this page that tell me exactly what the wind sounds like. Squalled, snapped, yodeled, shrieked. All of these words help me picture this exchange that's going on between the wind and Irene, and I really feel like I'm there with Irene experiencing this. So it's a really great way for the author and the reader to connect, and for the reader to much better understand the story. All right, now we're taking another look at Cinderella. We're going to search for some sense words. We're going to reread some pages, and on each page, I really want you listening to those words that appeal to your sense of sound, sight, smell, taste, and touch. Alrighty, I'm going to read a paragraph here. Listen for those sense words. The two sisters were in such a twitter of excitement that for 2 days they hardly took time to eat. They strained and snapped a dozen corset strings, pulling them too tight in order to shrink their waists. All day long they paraded in front of the looking glass. So there's a lot of really good words in this paragraph. Did we hear a word that tells us how the corset strings sounded? How did they sound as they were getting dressed? They snapped, right? So it's like strings snapping together. That tells us exactly how it sounds. And how did that corset, so a corset is like a very tight top that women used to wear. How did that feel? How did it feel to their sense of touch? Did it say? Yeah, it said they pulled them too tight in order to shrink their waist. So that tells me exactly how it felt, and it didn't feel good. It felt way too tight, right? So just in this really short paragraph, we heard a lot of sense words that really helped us better picture exactly what's going on in this scene as Cinderella helps her stepsisters get dressed. Nice job. All right, I'm gonna read another page. This one has a lot of sense words that appeal to our sense of sight, and it's got a couple others sprinkled in there. So let's see how many you can find as I read. The fairy godmother then went to look for the mousetrap. In it were 6 sprightly mice. She told Cinderella to lift the door of the trap, and as each mouse scampered out, she tapped him with her wand. Each mouse was instantly turned into a handsome, spirited horse. And there, all in all, was a fine set of 6 horses of a beautiful, dappled mouse gray. So, on this page, first of all, I heard a sense word that told me how the wand felt as she was turning these mice into horses. What words told us how maybe the wand felt, maybe even how it sounded? Yeah, she tapped each mouse. So she wasn't, smacking it. She wasn't hitting them. She was just tapping them. So that gives us a really clear sense of what she's doing. But the main reason I picked this page is because there are so many words that appeal to our sense of sight that describe exactly how these mice looked after they were turned to horses. So let me read it again. Count on your fingers how many words you find that appeal to the sense of sight. I'm just going to read the very last 2 sentences. Each mouse was instantly turned into a handsome, spirited horse. And there, all in all, was a fine set of 6 horses of a beautiful, dappled mouse gray. So, Kipsters, call it out. What did these horses look like? Call out the words that describe these horses, these good sight sense words that are adjectives. They're describing words. Call them out. Oh my gosh, really good job. You guys found a lot. These were handsome horses. They looked fine. They looked beautiful. They looked dappled, which means kind of speckled like this. And they were gray, right? They call it mouse gray because they were the kind of gray that the mice were, except now they're horses. So many words, Kipsters, that appeal to our sense of sight and help describe exactly what these horses looked like. Nice job. I'm going to read one more page that's got some different sense words on it that appeal to different senses. So really listen carefully to see how many senses you can find. The king himself, old as he was, could not take his eyes off her, and whispered in a low voice to the queen that it had been a long time since he had seen anyone so charming and beautiful. I'm going to stop there already because I heard a couple sense words. What did it sound like as the king was saying this? The king whispered it, right? He whispered it. He didn't scream this. He didn't shout it. He whispered it. And what was it that he was seeing? He was describing something that he was seeing. How did it look? Beautiful, right? He's describing Cinderella and how she looks so beautiful. All right, let's keep going. The ladies were busy studying her headdress and her gown in order to have some made just like it the next day. If only they could find stuff as fine and workmanship as skillful. Pause. What did the headdress and gown look like? They looked fine, right? They looked, so when you use the word fine like this, it means beautiful, expensive, exquisite. These are all some good words that mean the same thing that they could have used here instead, but it's beautiful, it's fine. Let's keep reading. The young prince conducted Cinderella to the seat of greatest honor, and then led her out on the floor to dance. She danced with so much grace that people wondered at her more than ever. A most splendid feast was served, but the prince did not taste a mouthful, so intent was he in gazing at Cinderella. What sense was just mentioned here? What sense was just mentioned here? Taste, right? They just described how something tasted. A most splendid feast was served, but the prince did not taste a mouthful, so intent was he in gazing at Cinderella. So it doesn't tell us what the prince tasted, because he wasn't eating, but it does talk about the feast, which is a giant meal in general. How did they describe the feast and what it tasted like? Splendid. A splendid feast. So that means it was grand, it was delicious, it was splendid. A splendid feast. Really nice job, Kipsters. I could have picked any one of the pages on Cinderella to reread because there's so many different sense words in this book that really help us get that clear vision and picture in our mind. Thank you so much for reviewing Cinderella with me and identifying some sense words. Now it's your turn. Go to Raz Kids and choose a book from my assignments. Identify at least 3 sense words in the book. Text them to your teacher. Can't wait to see what you find and what you learn. I miss you, I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.